Welcome to the High Vibration Academy podcast, where we explore practices for personal growth and healing. Today, we delve into the transformative power of forgiveness through the ancient Hawaiian practice of Ho'oponopono.
All right, so today we're going to really do a deep dive into this personal story about healing broken family relationships
Right.
using this ancient Hawaiian practice, Ho'oponopono.
Yeah.
And it's about way more than just like saying, I'm sorry.
Right.
We're really talking about like a whole mindset shift
Yeah.
of responsibility, healing, and like realizing how connected we all are.
Hmm.
What really kind of like hooked me on this story was how this person actually went from anger and resentment
Wow.
to like actually rebuilding those relationships with their family.
It is really fascinating how Ho'oponopono kind of flips the script on how we normally deal with like conflict and hurt.
Yeah.
Instead of dwelling on like what other people did wrong.
Right.
It's more about turning inward and like cleaning up your side of the street, so to speak.
Oh, I like that.
It acknowledges that even if you feel like you're the victim in a situation, your own reactions and like the way you're holding on to that hurt
Right.
still contributes to the overall energy of the situation.
Yeah, exactly. And in this story, the narrator starts off describing their family,
Okay.
like straight out of like a soap opera.
Oh, really?
Misunderstandings, just snowballing into these huge arguments, years of resentment building up.
Yeah.
Everyone's pointing fingers, no one's taking responsibility.
Wow.
The drill, it's actually, I think it's pretty relatable in a way.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, who hasn't had some kind of family drama at some point in their lives?
Absolutely. Like holding on to those grudges, feeling like someone owes you an apology.
Yeah.
That's such a universal human experience.
Totally.
But I think what a lot of people don't realize is how that resentment is actually keeping them stuck.
Yeah,
It's like carrying around a bag of rocks emotionally and even physically,
well, that's a good way to put it.
weighing you down.
And this narrator was lugging around a huge bag of rocks, convinced it was all their family's fault.
Wow.
But then there's this turning point where they discover Ho'oponopono
Okay.
and these 4 phrases that are like the core of the practice.
Listen.
I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you. I love you.
Hmm.
It seems so simple, right, when you just say it like that. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of power in those words.
Oh, absolutely. It's not about magically erasing the past or anything like that.
Right.
It's more about shifting your own internal energy around the situation.
Okay.
You can think of it this way, like those phrases are a way to acknowledge the hurt that you've experienced, to take responsibility for your part in it,
Yeah.
to express gratitude for the chance to learn and grow from it,
Okay.
and ultimately to extend love and compassion, even if it feels really difficult at the time.
Here's what gets me about this whole thing. It's not about saying that what the other person did was okay.
Right.
The narrator makes it clear that forgiving someone doesn't mean you're forgetting what they did or that you're condoning their behavior.
Yeah.
It's about freeing yourself from being trapped in that anger.
Exactly.
Have you ever felt that kind of shift
Oh, yeah.
where like letting go of that anger actually gives you more power?
It's like that saying, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
Oh, wow.
So forgiveness isn't about them.
Yeah.
It's a gift you give yourself. This story is a really beautiful illustration of that,
I think so.
of how forgiveness is really an act of self-care, almost like a detox for your soul,
Interesting.
letting go of that negativity so you can create space for healing.
So the narrator describes this incredible moment where they're all alone, just replaying all this family drama in their head over and over.
Oh, gosh.
And they start repeating those Ho'oponopono phrases over and over, picturing each family member as they're saying it.
Wow.
It almost sounds like a meditation or something.
What's so powerful about that is that they're not just like mindlessly saying the words.
Right.
They're actively choosing to change their perspective. Instead of replaying the hurt, they're replacing it with these feelings of forgiveness and compassion.
Yeah.
It's a deliberate effort to break free from that cycle of blame and resentment.
And it works. They
Yeah.
describe feeling that anger just melting away.
Wow.
Replaced by, get this compassion and understanding.
That's amazing.
It almost sounds too good to be true.
It does.
But what if that's the potential of Ho'oponopono to transform not just our relationships, but our whole outlook on life?
That's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Because the narrator doesn't just like go running back to their family demanding apologies.
Right.
Or trying to rehash all the old arguments.
Yeah.
Instead, they approach their family with this newfound love and vulnerability.
Wow.
And that conversation becomes the foundation for rebuilding their connection.
That's incredible.
Like, what does that tell you about the power of making that internal shift?
That it can create these ripples that go way beyond ourselves.
Absolutely.
But let's be real for a second. Forgiveness, especially with family, can be incredibly tough.
Oh, for sure.
It's not like you just wave a magic wand and everything's perfect.
Nope.
So for someone listening who might be dealing with their own family baggage,
Yeah.
what do you think is the most important takeaway from this part of the story?
I think it's that even in the messiest situations, even when forgiveness feels completely impossible, there's still a way to find healing within yourself.
Okay.
It starts with taking responsibility for your own energy,
Right.
choosing compassion over anger, and approaching those tough conversations with love and vulnerability.
Yeah.
And who knows, it just might open the door to rebuilding those broken connections.
I love that. What really struck me is how the story isn't just about one family finding peace. The narrator connects this whole Ho'oponopono thing to this bigger idea in Hawaiian culture that healing yourself can actually ripple out and help heal other people too.
Wow.
Have you ever felt that kind of interconnectedness?
Oh, yeah.
Where your own inner work somehow impacts the people around you?
Absolutely. It speaks to that idea that we're not isolated islands,
Right.
but we're all part of this larger web. And our actions, our thoughts, even our energy, all contribute to the collective vibe, so to speak.
I like that, the collective vibe.
So by choosing forgiveness and working on our own inner peace, we're not just changing ourselves.
Yeah.
We're also creating a more harmonious environment for everyone.
Makes me think of those studies on mirror neurons.
Oh, yeah.
You know how our brains light up when we witness someone else's emotions?
Exactly.
Maybe it's like that with forgiveness, too.
Yeah.
By actively choosing compassion and forgiveness,
Yeah.
we're sending out those vibes and other people pick up on it subconsciously.
It's like we're all tuning forks.
Okay.
And when one vibrates at a certain frequency, the others start to resonate with it.
Oh, that's cool.
And think about it this way. Resentment and anger, those are heavy, low vibrations. But forgiveness, love, compassion, those are higher frequencies.
Yeah.
And they have the power to lift up the whole energy field.
The narrator also mentions that in Hawaiian culture, forgiveness isn't just this casual thing you toss around.
Right.
It's considered a sacred process, a way to restore balance and harmony to the whole community. It makes me wonder, do we take forgiveness seriously enough in our modern world?
That's such a good question.
Thanks.
It's so easy to get caught up in that I'm right, you're wrong mentality. Especially these days when it feels like everyone's shouting their opinions all the time.
Right.
But Ho'oponopono reminds us that forgiveness isn't about winning or losing an argument. It's about acknowledging the hurt, taking responsibility, and intentionally working towards reconciliation.
Okay.
It's a much deeper, more spiritual approach.
And they make it clear that it's not a one and done deal.
Right.
It's an ongoing practice, a way of life.
Exactly.
It makes me think maybe true forgiveness isn't just about the other person.
Yeah.
It's about constantly checking in with yourself, noticing when resentment creeps in and making that conscious choice to let it go.
It's like training your mind to respond to conflict with compassion.
Right.
Instead of automatically going into defense mode. It's
Yeah.
about recognizing those ingrained patterns and choosing a more peaceful path,
Even when it's hard.
even when it's really challenging.
One thing the narrator points out is that one of the trickiest parts is remembering that forgiveness doesn't mean you're excusing someone else's behavior.
Right.
That's something I've struggled with personally, wanting someone to admit they were wrong before I can even think about letting go.
Yeah.
But Ho'oponopono seems to be saying that's not the point.
Exactly. It's not about condoning hurtful actions or letting people off the hook for what they did.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that by holding on to that anger and resentment, you're basically holding yourself hostage.
Oh.
You're the one carrying that burden.
Right.
And forgiveness is the key to setting yourself free.
It's like the difference between responding and reacting.
Yeah.
When we react, we're letting our emotions control us.
Right.
But when we respond, we're making a conscious choice.
Exactly.
So with Ho'oponopono, it sounds like it's about choosing peace over prolonging the pain.
Precisely. It's recognizing that forgiveness is ultimately an act of self-care.
Self-care.
And a powerful one at that.
So for someone listening who's maybe feeling that weight of resentment from a past hurt, What do you think is the most valuable takeaway from this concept of Ho'oponopono as like a way of life?
I think it gives you a totally different lens to look through.
Okay.
Instead of waiting for someone else to change or apologize,
Right.
you have the power to start healing within yourself.
Yeah.
It's like taking ownership of your own happiness, regardless of what anyone else is doing.
And the beautiful thing is like
Right.
that inner shift can have a ripple effect.
Absolutely.
It might not magically fix the relationship,
Right.
but it can definitely change the way you interact with the other person.
Sure.
It allows you to show up with more compassion, understanding, and maybe even create space for some genuine reconciliation down the line.
Exactly.
It's a reminder that even in the toughest situations,
Yeah.
even when you feel like the other person is 100% in the wrong,
Mm-hmm.
you always have a choice.
You do.
You can choose to hold on to the anger and let it eat away at you.
Yeah.
Or you can choose forgiveness and start to heal yourself from the inside out.
It's powerful.
And who knows,
Yeah.
it might just inspire the other person to do the same. As I was reading this story, one thing that really stuck out to me was how the narrator described their family dynamic.
Okay.
It wasn't like there was this one big explosive fight that ruined everything.
Right.
It was more like all these small misunderstandings and little hurts
Mm-hmm.
that kind of turned into arguments. And then those arguments just like built up these walls of resentment over time.
Oh, wow.
Like death by 1,000 paper cuts, you know?
It is so common, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially in families where you don't always feel safe, like expressing your true feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe there are these communication patterns that just keep everyone stuck.
Yeah.
Those little hurts and resentments, they just build up and build up.
Totally.
And next thing you know, you're sitting across from each other at the dinner table.
Right.
And it feels like you're looking at strangers.
And the narrator specifically talks about carrying all this anger and bitterness.
Okay.
Totally convinced it was all their family's fault.
Wow.
I think we've all been there at some point.
Oh, for sure.
Wanting to point the finger,
Mm-hmm.
make someone else the villain in our story.
Yeah.
But what's the danger in staying stuck in that blame game for so long?
Well, I mean, besides the fact that it keeps you totally locked in the past,
Right.
it also prevents you from being able to see the situation clearly.
Okay.
It's like you're wearing blinders.
Oh, yeah.
You can only see your own perspective.
Mhm.
You miss out on the nuances of what happened,
Right.
and you can't even begin to understand the other person's experience.
It's like that quote, resentment is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Right. It's really only hurting you in the end.
Exactly.
And the narrator describes this amazing aha moment when they realize that holding on to all that anger is actually what's sabotaging their own happiness.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they finally put down that heavy bag of rocks they've been carrying for years.
That's such a powerful image.
I know, right?
It's that moment you go from feeling like a victim of your circumstances
Mhm.
to realizing that you actually have the power to choose a different path.
Totally.
It's not about condoning what happened or saying that it was okay.
Right.
It's about recognizing that you always have a choice in how you respond.
And that's where Ho'oponopono comes in.
Right.
With those 4 phrases. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you.
Yeah.
Seems so simple.
Hmm.
But the narrator talks about this incredible experience of actually practicing it.
Really?
They were alone just kind of reflecting on all the family drama. And they started saying those phrases over and over again in their head,
Wow.
picturing each family member as they said them.
It's almost like a guided meditation,
Yeah.
intentionally shifting your energy from blame to forgiveness.
And what I think is so cool is that it's not about trying to get the other person to change or apologize.
Right.
It's about cleaning up your side of the street, so to speak.
Exactly.
Taking responsibility for your part in the dynamic
Mhm.
and realizing you have the power to shift your energy even if the other person doesn't change at all.
It's about choosing to heal yourself regardless of what anyone else does.
And they said that the anger actually started to melt away,
No way.
replaced by compassion and understanding.
That's amazing.
It sounds crazy, right?
It does.
But what if that's the true power of this practice?
Yeah.
That it can actually transform your whole emotional state.
It's not about magically erasing the past or pretending that nothing happened.
Right.
It's about choosing to see things through a different lens,
Okay.
a lens of compassion and understanding.
And when you shift your internal state,
Yeah,
it makes sense that it would change how you interact with the world around you.
totally.
And that's what I found so inspiring about this whole story.
Okay.
The next time the narrator talked to their family,
Mm-hmm.
they didn't bring up old wounds or rehash any of the past arguments.
You didn't?
Instead, they approached them with vulnerability and love.
Wow.
And that conversation became the starting point for rebuilding their relationship.
That is so powerful.
It's like that internal shift created this opening for something new to emerge.
It's a beautiful example of how powerful forgiveness can be.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a sign of weakness at all.
Right.
It's a courageous act of self-love and healing.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Ho'oponopono, I want to leave you with this.
What relationships in your life could benefit from a little Ho'oponopono magic?
Ooh, I like that.
And how could embracing these principles help you navigate challenging situations?
Thank you so much for joining us today for our exploration of healing your family with Ho'oponopono. If you found this video helpful, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Hit the notification bell so you're always the first to know when we post new videos. We love having you here, and we can't wait to see you in the next one.